So how to fund a fix and flip with no money out of pocket. Most people think you need a stack of cash to flip houses. You don't. You need the right capital stack. And this presentation shows you exactly how to fund a fix and flip from purchase all the way through to sale with $0 out of your own pocket, no equity partner, no draining your savings, and no waiting while you're tied up in another deal. So let's get in. I'm Mick Wadley, founder of gapfunded.com. At this point, we've helped over 5,000 investors and business owners across our network access the capital they need to close deals and scale their portfolios. So today we're applying the full capital stack to a fix and flip. Once you understand how a flip is funded correctly, you'll realize it's actually one of the cleanest deals to finance. Guys, if you've got a deal on the table right now that you're looking at, there's a free funding review link at the end or in the description. It's just a soft pull, no hard credit check, takes 2 minutes, and you walk away with a full game plan on your next deal. So let's get in. What does a fix and flip actually cost? Most new flippers only account for a purchase price and rehab. The real cost has 5 components. And the ones people miss are the ones that kill deals. So you obviously got the down payment. Hard money will cover 70 to 80% of the purchase, depending on your experience, the number of deals you've done over the past couple of years. And the other 20 to 30% is yours to bring to closing. Then we've got the closing costs. So you can expect 2 to 4% of the loan amount. On a 150K purchase, that'll be 3 to 6K before you've touched the property. Then we got the rehab draw gap. So hard money reimburses after each phase. The first phase comes out of your pocket before the draw clears. So you've got to make sure you actually have the backup capital to make it through to the first draw. Then we got holding costs at 10 to 14% interest on 150K, for example. That'd be around $1,500 a month. A 5-month flip adds up fast. So the faster you can get these projects done, the more profitable they're going to be on that front. Then we got the selling costs, agent commissions, closing costs, staging. Factor these into your margin from day one. So for a real deal example, we got a purchase price of 150K. Hard money will cover 80%. That's 120K. Down payment gap, 30 grand. Closing costs, 4.5. Initial rehab draw gap, 10 grand. And then the holding costs over 5 months will be 8.75. So the total out of pocket needed on this specific deal would be 53 grand 250. Most investors drain their savings or give away 30 to 50% of the profit to an equity partner. And there's a third option. Let's get into it. Why a fix and flip is actually easier to fund than a BRRRR deal. It's actually more straightforward because on a BRRRR exit, you've got to take into account the refinance. So it requires a DSCR lender approval, tenant in place, and a refinance timeline that can push to 8 to 10 months or longer. On a fix and flip exit, a sale of the property, the moment the property sells, proceeds hit and everything is paid off in one clean transaction, no refinance, no tenant proof, no DSCR qualification. And that clean exit is exactly why 0% business credit stacking works so well for flips. Most introductory periods run 12 to 21 months and a well-executed flip is done in 4 to 6, meaning you pay off those cards months before the 0% period even ends. 0% interest guaranteed. The timeline works in your favor. You can pay those down, expand the limits, rinse and repeat, and scale your portfolio faster. So here's the 3-tool capital stack. On a fix and flip, we combine 3 tools, different sequencing for a BRRRR, but the same result, 0 out of pocket. So you got your hard money loan. This is your foundation, covers the 70 to 80% of purchase price. If you're lucky, it'll cover 100% of the rehab, but it's fast to close based on the property value and not your income. Then we got gap funding. This is unsecured capital, covers the down payment, shortfall, the closing costs and earnest money. It can even be deployed in 24 to 72 hours. And there's no conflict with your hard money lender's position. Often if you get asset-based funding for your second lien, the hard money lender will actually pull their approval back unless you've gotten it through them in some cases. Then we go and get the 0% business credit cards. 0 interest capital for rehab draw floats, holding costs and overrun buffers, paid off in full from the sale of the proceeds, and well before the 0% period expires. You could get 2 or 3 flips done in one run of business credit cards. So let's look at the hard money, which is your foundation. They'll underwrite the property, not you. So it's all asset based. They will typically require a 650 credit score as a base foundation, but they don't care about your W-2, your tax returns. They only care about the purchase price, the ARV, and your rehab plan. So as we said, they'll cover 70 to 80% of the purchase, 100% of approved rehab budget, and then they'll release that in draws. The terms are typically 10 to 14% interest over a 6 to 18 term, and it maps perfectly to a flip timeline. The key principle is the faster you execute the rehab and get to the market, the less holding costs you pay, and speed is money on a fix and flip. Tool number 2 is gap funding, the down payment solution. So gap funding is short-term unsecured capital based on your credit profile, no property collateral, no equity split, no partner taking a slice of your profit. And it can cover the down payment shortfall, closing costs, the EMD or earnest money deposit, and the first rehab draw flow. Typically, we can get you up to 40-50% of your personal annual income. This will be 20 to 120K secured within 24 to 72 hours. And the beautiful thing about this is there's no early pay down penalty. So you pay that down, rinse and repeat, get into the next deal. The exit, the property sells, proceeds pay off the gap funding, fixed rate over 5 years, no early pay down penalty. You keep 100% of the profit. Tool number 3, this is a 0% business credit card stacking. So we go and stack up to 4 business credit cards. Think Chase, Amex, Citibank, targeting the 0% introductory APR for 12 to 21 months. We liquidate those limits into cash via a tool called Plastiq. There's a few tools that do this. Plastiq's got a pretty good transaction fee of 2.99%, but there's also Melio or Bill.com. To give you an example, on a 40K credit stack, Plastiq fee would be 1.2K. Hard money interest on the same amount over 5 months at 12% would be 2K. So you're paying 40% of the cost at 0% interest. What does it cover on a flip? Rehab draw float between hard money and reimbursements, monthly holding costs paid via Plastiq, materials at suppliers, earns points and builds business credit over time. And then you got your 10% overrun buffer. So allowing yourself $4,500 on a 45 grand rehab. Now let's look at a full fix and flip deal walkthrough. If we got a 170K purchase price, the after rehab value is 255 grand with a 45 grand rehab budget. Target sale price would be 250 and the timeline is 5 months. Now, hard money will cover the 136 grand at 80% and the rehab budget. So your total hard money is coming in at 181 grand. Gap funding is for that 61 grand 100 gap. So 40 grand in unsecured capital. Then we got the 0% business credit at 25 grand. Out of pocket 0. 5 months later, the sale. Sale price 250, agent and closing costs 18 grand. Pay off the hard money, pay off the gap funding, and pay off the business credit cards. We're walking away with 46 grand profit with 0 of your own cash in the deal and without having to split that with an equity partner or waiting around for someone to accept seller finance. Now, what to pay attention to on these numbers? A fix and flip lives and dies on margin. Before you deploy this capital stack, there's 3 numbers that need to work. The ARV minus total cost. So the classic 70% rule, but with a full financing stack pushed to 65% or tighter. The walkthrough deal works because there's 80 grand of gross profit margin before financing costs. Never cut margin to make a deal work. Now, number 2 is the rehab budget with 10% overrun built in. Flips go over budget. It's not a question of if. Build it into your numbers from day one and deploy the business credit buffer before you need it. On a flip, every extra month costs you hard money interest, business credit minimum payments, and delays the profit. Speed of execution is part of your capital strategy. So it's not just a project management idea. This is where a lot of your profit can live, in the speed of execution. Here's some mistakes fix and flip investors make with capital. So bringing in an equity partner. Say if your deal has 46K in profit and you bring in a partner for 50%, you just made 23K on a deal that should have paid you 46. Gap funding and business credit costs a fraction of that and you keep the whole profit. Using personal savings as a buffer. Every dollar of savings in a flip is a dollar that can't fund the next one. Investors who scale fastest never use their own capital as the primary funding source because say if you've tied up all your savings in one deal, you can't have yourself open to opportunities opportunities that come along while you're doing the rehab. Underestimating the timeline's the next one. So a 5-month flip that runs out to 8 months has 3 extra months of hard money interest you didn't budget for. Knowing your holding costs per day and factor delays in from the start. Number 4, not having the gap funding pre-approved. So the 24 to 72 hour funding timeline assumes your file has already been reviewed. Get reviewed before you make offers so you know your capital ceiling going in. And lastly, using the wrong gap lender. So anything secured against the property like a second lien can actually conflict with your hard money lender's position and can pull back your primary funding. So unsecured gap funding avoids that problem entirely. What to do next? So the investors running 2, 3 or 4 flips simultaneously are not the ones with the biggest savings account. They're the ones who've figured out how to fund deals without using their own money. So you got your hard money, your foundation covers purchase and rehab, your gap funding gets you into the deal covering down payment and closing. And then in the meantime, you've gone and stacked some business cards at 0% for free capital for draws, holding costs and buffers. So stop being limited by your cash position. Start being limited only by your deal flow. Book a free funding review at gapfunder.com/book. It's just a soft pull, no hard credit check, takes 2 minutes. Worst case, you walk away with real numbers based on your profile and a game. I'm Mick Wadley. Let's go and close something.